We've been working with Viv and Andy from the IT training, now collaborating, I think is a better word to use, with them since for about just under 2 years now, and we've got a series of events booked for the rest of the well, for certainly for the first 6 months. We might even get to see each other face to face at some events. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Andy. Sorry, to Viv even, and Andy's going to be looking after the chat box. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat box or ask them at the end. Over to you, Viv.
Cool. Thank you. First, as Rich lovely said, we're recording the session. That's fine. I'm going to share my screen now. You might have picked up from the conversations that we were having a minute ago. I'm based in Germany. Was traveling back and forward quite a lot before that. Lived in Sheffield for many years, but obviously not from Sheffield either. You might be able to work that out from my accent. So I'm just going to jump straight in. Andy will do the chat and answer any questions there. We will have time at the end to answer any of your questions as well, hopefully. But the whole idea of this is to try to get through probably as much as we can to do with Teams in the very short time that we've got, because let's be honest, Teams is a bit of a massive project now from Microsoft. It's a massive piece of software, whether you're using it in just video conferencing and just joining in, or whether it's been mandated in your organization to start using Teams or whatever. Hopefully I want to touch on a couple of key bits. This is obviously not going to be full-on Teams training. We're going to pull out a few key new features that have released recently, and features that are coming in the very, very near future. So with both of those things in mind, let's jump into those sort of areas that we're doing, and I think Andy's dealing with that. And if you need to know how to use the chat, let's just bring that back. You probably know how to use it, but if you need to know how to use the chat, you press that button there to show conversation, which Andy's just, I guess, put a chat in there saying please put messages here, and that's where you would get your chat. So we'll either hopefully deal with the questions during it through Andy's messaging, or we will deal with the questions afterwards. I'm going to jump to Teams itself, and I do want to actually give you a few just key kind of bits and pieces. Of this morning even they've just changed how some of these icons just look when I refreshed it. So there's a lot of change in Microsoft Teams, and let's do like a 2-minute introduction to it. Microsoft Teams originally was designed to compete with things like Slack, but also as a takeover for their Skype for Business. And if you use Skype for Business in your organization, it's actually running out as of July this year. July this year, Skype for Business will no longer work, so you do have to be on Teams. Teams is not just the Skype for Business thing, and it's not just the video conferencing, because we obviously, a lot of people are talking about Teams versus Zoom and this sort of idea. But what I want to actually, I will come to some of the video features shortly, and the new features coming in that. But what I want to talk about is the fact that Teams is their platform for Microsoft 365. It's available for free as well for people who have a personal account. It's available to guests into your account. It's available on mobile devices, whether that be Android or Apple devices. It's available on browsers. It's available on Mac. It's now available on Linux as well. So Microsoft have made a big push to push this out throughout every sort of device that you can get to. And it's designed, I call it, collaboration and communication tool. So you've obviously got your chat in there, you've got your group chats going on, you've got your teams going on, which we'll kind of talk about the difference of those in a minute. You've got your audio calls, your video calls, your meetings, and all of that. But what it really is becoming is it's becoming the portal, and what Microsoft have designed it to be is a portal to access all your information and probably most of your apps throughout your organization, whether they're Microsoft or whether they're external. And we will come to that shortly as well. So that's what it is. It's a communication and collaboration tool, more than just a video conferencing tool. And yes, we will talk about some of the key features that it's bringing now. So let's quickly show you a couple of new things on chat. My guess is that you've been using it for a while. You may know a lot of these features, but let me show you a few extra things that are coming in and have come in recently. I do want to spend time on the new features, and we do have videos from last year, and we do have training available for proper Teams training if it's something more complex. You can do individual chats with people, as you know, but by the way, one of the key things that you can actually do is you can set up group chats. So if you need to actually set up a group with someone else and say, hey, let's have a chat, it doesn't need to be a full-on team. because a team is meant to be a full-on collaboration tool. If you just need a group chat, like you would say, for example, on WhatsApp or something like that, you can create a group chat. And you do that by just pressing the plus button up at the top. Now, one of the really nice things I find about group chats is obviously you can name it, again, like if you think of any social network sort of stuff. But a couple of things. Obviously, it's secure within your organization. It can be used on a mobile device as well. So all of your company conversations can take place in these little groups if you wanted to. But one of the really useful things that I've noticed about it is if you press the add button and add another person to this group chat, so say I wanted to add more people, it gives me a little key option, which is one of the kind of annoyances about group chats. So I can actually include the history or include the whole chat history or include a number of days. Now that's really useful. You add somebody after the group's been created a couple of days later, and basically you spend 20 minutes forwarding them all the messages. You don't need to if you're using the Teams group chat feature. I've been joined to groups on WhatsApp after the fact, and you've missed the whole conversation before it, all the details, all the information. So that's quite useful. With chat and with Teams apps and with the audio meetings now, you can pop them out. So you can just pop these out and have them sitting over different things as well. You might know as well, if you press that button, you can actually edit your messages as well. You can put all the normal stuff, schedule a meeting, and you've now got forms from within the Teams. So you can set up a little poll straight immediately within Teams, as well as adding other things to your apps. Something to be clear here, when you press the attach button and you send it to an individual or a group of individuals, you're not actually attaching. It's not like an attach button that uses the same paperclip icon, but you're not actually attaching. You're sharing from your OneDrive. So if I put something in here, it would share to Andy and Trainer 2 something through my OneDrive. So when you go into the files button, it actually is clear, because in your files button, it says that you are actually sharing. There's no file shared here, but this button says share. So if I go back to the Andy one and I look there, there's messages, files that we've shared with each other. This is useful because you can go back through them all. But they are bringing out a new feature and it's been delayed. It was meant to be released in December, but like some of these things, it was delayed to let more change management come into place, especially when this is used through many, many organizations. But now coming with it by March, once you share here, once you attach, you're going to be given the same options to control that sharing as you would have if you were using a normal OneDrive share or a normal SharePoint share. So when you go to share, it'll ask, do you want to make it read only? Do you want to make it edit only? Halfway house where it's in review mode, that sort of thing. So you'll be able to decide on the sharing features. And if there's external people in this chat, you'll also be able to decide that that file is only shared with people within your organization. And I think that's a key thing, because then you can invite external people in, but your default sharing can be set that only people in your organization can see the documents. So you'd have to change that if you wanted an external collaborator to see it, but it actually puts a little bit of data protection on your company documents. So let's jump straight away into Teams. Teams is your group collaboration. They're built in Microsoft 365 Teams. With that, that means that you get a shared calendar, a shared notebook, a shared group of people, a SharePoint site. And that's key in a second. So a team can have multiple channels. I would always class teams as either departments or projects. And I know you can actually work around that. And if you've got a department or a project, you can actually add additional teams. Again, that's a very, very brief pitted information. You can set up private channels as well. I'm guessing you know how to use the Teams, but you can set up private channels. Somebody has to be in your team before they can be invited into the private channel. But then that means that if you're in the private channel, you see that it exists. Anyone else doesn't see what it exists. The same thing applies when you're talking about Teams. And when you're talking about Teams and when you're talking about files in Teams. When you're talking about files in Teams, you're actually dealing here with the same idea. You're dealing with an attachment. When you attach, you're dealing with a share. It shares it from your SharePoint library. And that's really key to know. In the background, when you set up a team, it automatically creates a SharePoint library. Now, this is key if you're thinking about, if you have, or you're thinking about migrating data to 365. Because if you want people to be using Teams and you've already got SharePoint sites, you've potentially got a bit of an issue. Because what's happening at the minute is people who have already moved to SharePoint, now they're setting up Teams and they end up with 2 or 3 versions of a document. So if you're planning a move, the idea would be if you're wanting to utilize Teams, you set your Teams up and you move your data to the SharePoint Teams that are SharePoint sites that are associated with those teams. That means that the files are available in the Teams instead of 2 copies being created. If you've used SharePoint at all, you'll see here, this is like the top bar of SharePoint. You've got new, you can pin things to the top, you can synchronize it with your desktop using the OneDrive for Business Sync app. You can download, you can click on files, you can check them out, you can check them in, all the same sort of things that you can do on SharePoint. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 features that you can't do in the Teams version, but you can do everywhere else. You can also edit from within Teams. So that allows for the proper collaboration going on. It also allows if you've got users who don't have a full license or guest users, because they can still use Excel or Word or PowerPoint online versions. And the collaboration tool within Teams is the online version of it. Because I'm sharing my screen, it sometimes takes a little bit longer to do the opening up on this. But when you do that, it means it's constant immediate update. I could be working on Teams, Andy could be working on his desktop, somebody else could be working on their mobile phone, and we could all be working on the same Excel file at the same time. You can actually add conversations to it. You can create a conversation, and now if you do your comments, I don't know if you started to notice, it's a new modern comment system. The modern comment system allows you to put comments in and tag people, and you can even allocate tasks to someone. So if you need to actually say, hey, does this need updated? You can tag someone and you can allocate it to them as a task in modern conversations. Modern comments. There we go. I've already done it. And I've actually assigned Andy a task for this one. Really rude of me to do so. You can also widen these out and expand tabs. So you can do all that, but not only that, and the biggest thing that I think that we're missing a trick when it comes to Teams is this whole idea of collaboration with apps. Because if you haven't before in any of your Teams, or if you haven't really played with it yet, in my opinion, it's a good idea to press the plus button here. Because this plus button allows you to do so much. This plus button allows you to connect to loads and loads and loads of services. So let's just hit it here a second. It connects automatically to all of the standard Microsoft services. So you can connect it to Excel, Word, PowerPoint, obviously. You can connect it to Planner, which is their kind of to task management. You can connect it to To-Do. Again, let's wait for it to load here while I'm talking. But you can also connect it to websites. So if you need somebody to log into something, you can connect it to a website and they can go through the website from within Teams. They don't need to go somewhere else. You can connect it to Power BI if you use it. You can connect it to Power Apps. So that surfaces data within your organization and creates an app for data entry or data viewing. You can connect, as I said, to websites, to Visio, to Power Automate. So that as well as many other things, Power Automate allows for an approval process to be set up. But this even allows you to connect to PDFs, put a PDF in here as a read-only. Connect to the new Lists app. Now, Lists is SharePoint Lists, and it's been renewed and made much nicer. But you don't just have to connect to internal apps. Forms is another key one. So if you've actually got a form, you can actually collect that data from within Teams, or you can have the results of that data coming straight into Teams. But it's not just that. It's like things like, if you might have noticed here, YouTube. You can connect to a YouTube playlist or a YouTube video. And as you scroll down the number of apps, you can see Adobe there. Some of these apps, I have no idea what they're doing, but more and more apps are making themselves available to be embedded and connected into Teams. Some of them are more recognizable than others, but we've got this ability to do so. And this list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You've got TeamViewer in there, you've got other things in there, you've got this, some of the CRM options. If you use other Microsoft things, you can do so as well. So we've got a number of them connected in here in a demo team. For example, this is Microsoft Stream, the video platform, so internal training. And we do training on that, and there's videos on the YouTube channel about that. That allows you to create playlists for training. You can actually connect out to websites, as I've said. But one of the other key things that has been brought in is you can connect to SharePoint sites. Now, when we talk about connecting to SharePoint sites, you don't just need to connect to the SharePoint site that is connected to your team. You can connect to other document libraries. Now, you don't have all of the same functionality, but you still have the ability to upload, get link, open in SharePoint. So you do have these. So if you've got a document library of policies and procedures or anything like that, you could pull that through from another SharePoint library on another SharePoint site. And that allows this sort of everything be at the fingertips of the people that need it. They don't need to log into 2 or 3 platforms and don't need to go to 3 or 4 places to do so. So if we look at that, you can actually look at SharePoint Pages. It also allows you to actually connect to news. So if you've got articles, if you've got policies, in some organizations and some charities, we've been actually putting their policies on SharePoint Pages and then connecting them through the Teams so people can see these policies and procedures. And at the bottom of the policy and procedure, which is a SharePoint site, they've actually got a Microsoft form. So they actually enter their details, their name and their address to confirm, or their name and their date to confirm that they've read and understood the procedure. So as you see now, it's becoming much easier. Connect to this list document library, this news item, or any SharePoint site. So you can paste any list, any page, or any document library. Obviously, the people would need to have access to it, but that's the way that you can actually surface the correct documents to the right teams. And then my suggestion is, in a lot of cases, if you've got, say, a policies and procedures area, you make that read-only and you connect it into multiple teams. So there we go. That's a key part of the collaboration. One of the new things, 2 of the new things that are coming out, again, you're going to be able to do the share options when you come to your sharing files within Teams. But secondly, they're actually bringing out a new feature by March. This is what's going to be called a landing page or a home page. So when you log into Teams, if you enable it, you'll actually be able to go straight to your home page, which becomes your intranet page. And that intranet page can have videos, articles, training materials, and links to key parts of the organization. And from that point, then they can access their Teams. So it's a really useful tool to make Teams your center place, because let's be honest, the uptake on a lot of internal communication things and intranets and things like that is quite poor. So if you actually have it that Teams is the place that they go most of the time, and that becomes a landing page. They're also bringing in a new app, which is called Learning, a learning app, as part of their new experience called Viva. So that came out recently, and this learning app will allow you to bring in LinkedIn Learning, your own learning, other learning, and actually have an app which controls people's learning on Teams. So that's most of the Teams stuff talked about there. I do want to jump into it. One of the other things that they brought recently, you can pin your own apps over in this left-hand side. The Planner app, which is Microsoft's Planner, which is great that we've got that going on, but the Planner app by Microsoft, they've actually turned it and called it Tasks by Planner and To Do. So what this does, if you actually add it as a personal app over in your left-hand side, it surfaces all of your to-do lists, all of your flagged items and emails, or your tasks and emails, and anything that's been allocated to you through Teams or through Planner, and it brings them all to one place. So you have one destination to see all the things that you've set up for yourself or have been allocated to you. You can also still add a planner for a team into a team, but this is your personal space to get all of that. Okay, let's jump to calendar. Let's talk about the video calling and the video conferencing, and let's talk about some of the things that are coming up very soon. You can now add a shared calendar into a team, so that's possible to do. It wasn't possible until recently, but let's show you. I want to bring you over to Outlook. One of the things you can do now in Outlook is you can actually meet now from Outlook. So if you got the plugin that added in, you don't now need to go to Teams to set up a meet now. You can start an instant team meeting from here. I'm not going to do that because it would drop this meeting. And you can set new Teams meetings up from here. Very, very soon, from your new Teams meeting option within Outlook, you're going to be able to change the settings without even losing access, or leaving the having to go to a web page or go anywhere else. And what I mean by the options is your settings for your Teams meeting. So who can get in through the lobby, who can bypass the lobby, have you got a presenter set up and stuff like that. So that's coming in this month, probably start of March, I mean. So Meet Now has been added, and that's being added at the minute. Let's show another couple of things here. You can now chat to participants in advance of it as well. We'll open up this. The options for setting your meetings have been expanded. And you can do it by clicking on this button once the meeting's been set up, or you can also do it from within the meeting now, which I'm going to show you in a second. But if you do it in advance, which is always inadvisable when you've got a large meeting, you get this. So now you've got more options here if you've seen these before. You can set these defaults and then change them for specific meetings. So we set our defaults for what most standard meetings are, and then we can actually change those defaults. So if we click on this, we can change who can bypass the lobby. So let's change it a little bit. So you can have everyone can bypass the lobby. Please, please, please be careful with that. That's where Zoom bombing comes from, and I've still been, or Teams bombing, and I've still been reading situations of that, even of I think it was a University of Edinburgh or Glasgow, meeting last week that was bombed by people because they left it open. If you turn on that everyone can bypass your lobby, which you may want to do because you may want it to be a public meeting, then what you need to do is change your presenters. So what you would actually do, only people in your organization, specific people, or only me can present. And that means that nobody else can share their screen. And if you're doing a large meeting like that, what you can actually do is you can actually have it that they can't unmute as well, if that's what you want. So you've got those abilities to do it, and you can turn off meeting chat as well, so people can't share stuff in the meeting. So you can actually disable it entirely or in meeting only. So these are very, very granular now, and it's really useful. Something coming in the next month or so as well is that you're going to actually have be able to have external people present. So at the minute, you can only have presenters within your organization or everyone, but maybe you want certain external people to be able to present. Well, what you can do, as long as they're a specifically invited person, within the next month or so, you're going to be able to allocate that person as a presenter. So you keep it secure for everyone else. It can't be in everyone, but you actually have a couple of external collaborators. So it's important to tweak those if you're doing public meetings or things like that. Let's join back into the meeting and say hello to all your lovely people and talk about some of the key features here. Obviously, we can do the show participants, and that allows us to play around with what people can do. We can remove people, we can put them back to the lobby, we can see who's here, we can mute everyone. You can invite people through the join info now, or we can hover over individual people and do things with it. So you've got all of that, and you can change those settings now on the meeting. That is quite useful, because historically, if you set the meeting up, you couldn't change it mid-meeting. If I go to more actions, I can actually change mid-meeting as well. So I go now to meeting options, and I can change it mid-meeting. When we're here, let's talk about this. I don't know if you've played with it. Together mode allows you to share space with loads of other people. So there's only 3 of us, so it's not so useful at the minute. But if you've got a really large meeting and it takes a while, it's only the person you can set it up on yours. If you've got a really large meeting, you can decide, I want everybody to be showing in a lecture theatre, or only want everybody to be showing in a coffee shop. And you can change the scene if you want. So hi guys, you can actually change the scenes to loads of other scenes. So I can see where if you've got a large meeting and everybody's cameras on, it's a bit hard to be doing this all the time. To put everybody in a lecture theatre, and as more and more people put the cameras on, it actually spans out. We've obviously got background effects in there, which we're using at the minute, and that's common now, blurring, everything like that. They are actually adding into it the ability to tweak your lighting and stuff like that, because like mine's a bit weird in the lighting at the minute. Full screen mode, which actually if somebody's presenting is really good, and focus is the same. Again, in the next month, they're changing how this works. That if somebody's doing a presentation, you can actually see the presentation on one half of your screen, and you're going to be able to see the video screens and the reactions on the other half of your screen. So that's coming up as well, which is a really useful tool. Live captions works per person. You can turn them on, and it attributes those live captions to a person. When we do the recording, it actually goes to stream. Stream at the minute can't be shared externally unless your setting has changed. Stream used to be its own platform within Microsoft. It's now being stored in OneDrive and SharePoint. It's going to be force moved on everybody soon, but a lot of new people have got it on automatically. That means that automatically anybody that it's been recorded to will have access to it. You obviously will have the ability to change that access and set that access in advance, but the default is that if you record it, everybody will be able to see it. Later this year, they're also bringing out summaries of meetings. So they're actually going to surface the recordings, the key information, and things like attachments and chat. We know the chat's going on here, something new here. It's not a big deal, but let's applaud everybody here. Thanks, well done, guys, well done. Thanks very much. So you can actually react to presentations and react to things rather than actually having just to do a hands up feature. Again, there's loads of little things that I think can be quite useful in it. Obviously, share screen options, which I'm doing at the minute. But one of the key big things, before I talk about the new features coming as well, is this breakout rooms. We've been waiting for this for a while. It came in December. It started off, as they said, it was in preview. It's not in preview even anymore. There's another new feature, tells you, reminds you. It doesn't do anything, it just reminds you your meeting's finishing. So we can actually create breakout rooms. These can, as soon as you set the meeting up, you can set these up in advance. So you could join it and set them up in advance. So I want 3 rooms. I'm not going to send us to rooms today, because if you've been in any of these sort of video calls, you know how they work. But let's show you how to set them. You can set 3 rooms. You can decide to assign people automatically, or you can manually do it. I'm going to automatically do it, and I'm going to create the rooms. I'm not sending anyone to the rooms. The rooms aren't open. All I'm doing is creating those 3 spaces. So at the minute, I can actually see, and it should automatically assign them. There we go. It has. I could actually change it myself here. Up on the 3 dots, it's quite simple. I can actually recreate the rooms. I can make an announcement if the rooms are open, 5 minutes left, and everybody gets told that there's 5 minutes left. And then I can open the rooms. So I can add another room, start the room. And when the rooms are open or started, what I can actually do is I can send people to the rooms one by one. I can send people, open that room, rename the room, delete the room, and then I can assign people, I can call them back, I can close the room, I can join the room, and I can come back. So all of that standard sort of stuff, but that's how you would manage their breakout rooms. So again, something that we are waiting for quite some time from Microsoft. They've caught up. Couple of last things then to explain what's going on. They've actually added recently things like noise suppression, so it actually, you can actually turn that on in your settings to actually deal with the background noise that you might have when you're in a meeting. And a few key things we talked about, that they're bringing in the homepage. That's great. The learning app, that's great. The ability, obviously, breakout rooms are now live and they're no longer even in beta. A couple of other things that they're bringing out, and we've got to remember there's a movement here with Microsoft at this, and one of the things to think is they're looking at how to make it more collaborative, how to make the video calls better, how to make the audio calls better, but they're also having to look at, this is also a phone system. Now, I know a lot of us don't use it for phone systems, but this is a voice over IP phone system, so therefore they're looking at improving those features as well. A couple of the things that I really like that they seem to be bringing out soon is the sharing feature, to be able to choose what you share and how you share it in all of the meetings. So I will really use that when it comes to external collaboration with people. And another key thing that they're bringing out in meetings is this. They've upped the number of people that you can have in a all company group, and they've upped the number of people that you can have in a team. None of those apply to us SMEs, but now it's like 25,000 or something like that. What I find is really useful is you've got a 300 person limit on a normal Teams call like this. So we could have 300 people on this meeting. Then once it does that, we hit capacity and the meeting's over. So if you knew that you're going to get over 300 people, you should have, we could set up a live event. It requires a slightly different license. If you have a normal standard license, you need something like an E3 or an E1 or an education one. You need those sort of licenses. And that allows you to do a live event. So it's like a live webinar, and you can have as many people as you want on that. A little bit more complex to set up. So a lot of people don't use these live event features. One thing that I've found out recently is Microsoft are bringing out, and it's coming in the next month, they said by March, that they're rolling out the ability that once you hit your 300 person limit, you can have up to 1,000 people, so 700 more people can watch it on stream. So it automatically turns over 300 people into view only. Now, they're 30 seconds behind the normal meeting. They can't interact with the meeting. You won't have a list of the people attending. But if you literally want to have a large meeting, you don't know how many people are going to attend. The first 300 people join in. Everybody after that, up to 1,000, becomes stream participants of that meeting. So I think that's a really useful tool if you have got public meetings without having to think about it, and public open forums that way. And one of the other things that they're bringing in is if you want to set up, because when I set up meetings like this, the concern is you don't want to send out, why Rich does it, he does it through Eventbrite, and you get the link. We do it that way because we don't want to share everybody's email addresses through an email, because the Teams invites don't allow you to do a blind carbon copy. So what you do is you set up your meeting, you get your link, you put it into your email, and then you send it. That's fine. What they're doing now is they're going to give you the ability to have press, again in the next month, a Meet Now button. And that Meet Now will create the link, but it actually doesn't start the meeting. So you can then grab that link and go and say, right, this is our meeting link. Away you go, people. So it's a little bit easier. And then you can just set the time, because the meeting link is generated immediately, irrelevant of the time or date. So any meeting link from Microsoft expires after 6 months, or unless you close it. When I finish here, I'll leave this and close it. But other than that, that link's available. So what you could do is you can just set it up and use it as a link. So hopefully that covers some of the key things that it does and some of the key things coming up. Where I keep an eye on this from, one of the places is it's a thing called the Microsoft Roadmap. So if you want to see what's coming up in any of the Microsoft products, if you just Google Microsoft 365 Roadmap, and then on the left-hand side, you can choose what product you want to look at, and you can filter it by rolling out, launched already, and in development. So it keeps you up to date with everything that's going on. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Viv. And I'm going to use one of my little applause, applause emojis there, or if you want to call them reactions. Really appreciate that. So has anybody got any questions for Viv at all?
Andy's muted.
Yeah.
Nothing in the chat pages, right?
No problem, not a problem at all. Okay, then if nobody's got any questions, I really appreciate you attending today. Thank you to Viv, thank you to Andy again. We've got another couple of events coming up during March. The next one is it's a slightly longer session, a couple of hours, looking at 365 and how it can keep your office connected. So please do feel free to book onto that. And then on the 26th of March, which is actually Affinity's 15th birthday as well, so we're planning on having a big party, but yeah, that's not happening. So we'll be sorting something for that day, I'm sure. We might even sit and eat cake in front of you, so on the screen here. But so feel free to eat your own cake as well. But yeah, that'll be on the at 9:30 till 10, and that's covering forms and some automation around that as well. And talking about forms, I will actually be sending you an email after this with using Microsoft Forms, which is a really useful little tool where we'll be asking for feedback from you guys. So have a look at that. It is really useful. I found it really useful for even getting information for case studies and stuff like that from clients. So that's about it from me. So thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you again soon.